So, have a think for a moment what you think is the most common question that I get asked over all these years. Have a think. Have a think. Think. Joe, when is India going to the World Cup? I'm being serious. If I got paid $1 for every time I got asked that question, I'd be as rich as Warren Buffett. No doubt about it. Right, here's the reality kicking in, and I'm sorry to burst the bubble. India ain't going to the FIFA World Cup anytime soon. And I mean that. And you know what? I kind of get sickened when I hear politicians, ministers, anyone involved in sporting bodies in India, morons like Sepp Blatter in years gone by saying India's going to the World Cup soon, and sometimes they'll put a date on it. So you know what I've heard? I have heard apparently India is going to qualify for the 2022 World Cup. India was never going to qualify for the 2022 World Cup. Ever. India is going to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. By the way, I can't wait for that one. USA, Mexico, Canada. Now, the argument that they use about India qualifying for the 2026 World Cup is this. It's going to a 48-team tournament. Yes, there are going to be more teams allowed into the 2026 World Cup. But there's a flaw in that argument, and I'll tell you what that flaw is. So, first of all, if you know how the rankings are calculated, if you know how the qualification games are played and arranged, then you will understand, and only then will you understand how and why India is not going to the 2026 World Cup in the USA, Canada, and Mexico. Ain't happening. Now, here's why. Currently India, or the last time I checked, India were 19th in the AFC rankings. So, they are the 19th best team in the AFC. Just for those of you who may not know, there are different bodies around the world. CONCACAF, of course, is the USA and America. You have Europe. UEFA is the European body. For example, there's Oceania, which obviously includes countries as well. So just to make things simple, there are a number of bodies that make up FIFA. Each of those groups have to play other teams within their group, and the top teams out of each group get either automatic qualification for the World Cup or they go into a playoff. Now, coming back to the AFC, here's the thing. The AFC for the 2026 World Cup will be offering 8 slots. 8. In case you can't count. 8. Plus 1. So, the plus 1, the 9th team, will have to go and feature in a playoff game with the 9th team, or the extra team if you like, from some of those other bodies. Whether it be playing against Oceania, playing against Latin America, it doesn't matter which it is. So, you've got to be, to begin with, you've got to be one of the best 8 teams in Asia. What did I just say? India are currently 19th. They're nowhere near the top 8. So, in my opinion, India has to be inside the top 10. That's not an unreasonable goal, by the way, to go from 19th to the top 10. And I'm not talking about manipulating rankings here, like they did to get their highest ever ranking, which was 97, was it, in the world? 97 was FIFA's best ranking in the world, if I remember correctly. With a little bit of manipulation, they did what Wales did. But just have a think about their current position. Just have a think about it. They're not in the top 100 of the world. They are not in the top 10 in Asia. So how on earth do you think they're going to qualify for the 2026 World Cup? You want to go further ahead? Be my guest. The 2030 World Cup. Unless India hosts a World Cup itself, they are not going to the World Cup anytime soon. And by the way, I have to say, that breaks my heart. It really does. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the fever if India went to the World Cup? Can you imagine? Now, as you well know, I do the World Cup. I broadcast the World Cup for Sony ESPN, Sony 10 every 4 years. Now, one thing I've come to learn over the years of hosting the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup, is that there is a huge population of football fans in India who never watch any other live football except for the World Cup every 4 years. I had this fabulous lady during the last World Cup, the 2018 one in Russia, messaged me on social media, or I'm guessing one of her family members actually prodded her to do the social media. And she said, Joe, I only ever watch the World Cup every 4 years, and I'm constantly looking out for Brazil and Argentina. Now, part of that is historic, and those of you who may not be aware, one of the first live football tournaments to be broadcast in India was back in the 80s, and that was the first live football that you could see. It was way before the Premier League. It was way before the Champions League. It was way before La Liga was ever in anyone's psyche. So that's why you get this huge outpouring of support for the likes of Brazil, the likes of Argentina every 4 years. And in the interim years, that same group of people aren't watching football. So that's the power of the World Cup. And that's why it's so important to the football fever in India and in the Indian subcontinent as a whole. But let's just focus on India for a second. So coming back to that, if you look at some of the teams as India has slipped in the FIFA rankings, some of the teams that have jumped ahead of them recently, you've got, what have you got? You've got Vietnam. You've got the Faroe Islands. The Faroe Isles! The Faroe Isles is populated by sheep. Just sheep. Just sheep. And they're above India in the rankings. Who else is above India in the rankings? Palestine? I can never pronounce it. Kyrgyzstan? Kyrgyzstan? Whatever it is. You know who I'm talking about. They are above India in the FIFA rankings. Think about that. And I'll tell you why I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that because some of those countries, in fact, a number of those countries, what resources do they have to support a national team sport like that? Palestine, well, we obviously know that. Faroe Isles, Vietnam. India's one of the richest countries in the world. It's got one of the highest number of billionaires in the world. You're telling me there's not enough financial resource to push and fuel like a rocket-powered jetpack for India to progress so much quicker than it's doing now to reach a World Cup? You don't think that? You're a fool. So, the resources are there. The money is there. But that progression has to be quicker. But the first thing that needs to be done to fire India to World Cup qualification is this, and it's only this. One thing. A reality check. So the next time a politician, someone from some organization or sports body or someone who's rambling bullshit in an interview, don't listen to them. The first thing that India needs is a reality check. And that reality check is, if you're going to go to the World Cup, first of all, you've got to be in the top 10 in Asia. That's the first thing. It's that simple. Subscribe, like, do whatever else you need to do, but make sure you comment. Make sure you comment. You agree with me? You disagree with me? I would love to see India in the World Cup because I know FIFA would love to see India in the World Cup. I know the broadcasters would love to see India in the World Cup. Look at the eyeballs that would come with it. And it would give that fuel to what is a global sport. Because let's make it clear, cricket ain't a global sport. Everyone keeps going on about it. It ain't a global sport, cricket. Football. Football is the global game.